Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Marketing in the Madness, where I unpack, well, not just marketing actually. This podcast focuses a lot on technology and the technologies that are powering brands, their marketing and their e-commerce ecosystems. And today's episode is actually a little bit more around the technology side of things, because I have now I'm going to get you to say your name, because even though you have the easiest name to say, Simon, I'm still going to probably get it wrong. Can you say your full name?
Fine.
Simon.
It's Simon Pakenham-Walsh.
Simon Pakenham-Walsh, the CIO of River Island. So, Simon.
Yes.
Pre-being at River Island, which is a brand I have loved for many, many years.
Good.
Bit annoyed that I didn't think about wearing something from River Island this morning.
That's
when
right,
I got
just
dressed.
keep buying from them.
Next time, because we may have you back on. Can you give me a little bit of your potted history, career, other places you've worked, just to give the lovely listeners a little bit of context into the amazing experience that you've had in the world of, well, retail, I guess.
Yeah, well, retail for the second half. So I think I've been in technology for about 25, 26 years. Spent about 10 years in various consulting and contracting roles. So big consultancies like PwC, IBM, quite bespoke consultancies like Detica, and then contracted with Royal Mail and after that with Sky. And Sky was the first time that I sort of worked with technology and really enjoyed how they use technology to really engage the overall proposition. And it was a real sort of partner to the high level strategy. So I worked at Sky for a while and then went on to Sainsbury's. I spent 5 years at Sainsbury's looking after food technology, initially there to set up their product management capability, but then took on a lot of the entire technology function for food. Then I went on to Arcadia, which was interesting. Did a bit of Topshop and was there actually for the handoff to Boohoo and ASOS, which was really fascinating. I spent a couple of years at Sweaty Betty as their CTO and worked with the wider Wolverine brands as well. And now I've been at River Island for a year and a half.
Wow. I mean, what a career. Yeah. Some of my favourite brands in there as well.
Some big, some small, some distressed, some growing. Yeah. So yeah, a bit of everything.
And do you know what? That's where the learning comes from, isn't it? And also kind of not totally crossing industries, but things at Sainsbury's are going to be very different to things at Sweaty Betty, for instance. And I think working because I'm guessing maybe you were at Sweaty Betty when they were independent?
Just at the tail end, yes. So I was there and I turned up and pretended to sort of know everything about their technology, even though I'd only been there for a couple of weeks, and did a lot of the pitches for the different options for sale, whether it be to trade or to other options. So yeah, it was fascinating going through that.
I love that. I love the difference of working, I guess, from somewhere like Sainsbury's to going to something like that. That must have been, challenging at times, but also you learn so much in those situations, don't you?
Yeah, and the passion for the brand and the way that people then, the different ways that people engage in the overall strategy is fascinating. Whereas Sainsbury's, the scale of it is so huge. You can only influence a small part of that world, and it's only as strong if everything works like clockwork. Whereas Sweaty Betty is very different. One small thing can have a huge impact either to your customer experience, or to the business as a whole. So it was fascinating to be a part of.
Isn't that what's amazing about working for smaller businesses, though? That you really feel that you. I mean, I've done the same. Worked in big and in small, and I guess I've been lucky to work with large businesses that had lots of little brands underneath them. So I did still feel like I could make a bit of a difference, but it does feel great. I mean, that's why I love running my own business, is because you can actually do things that make such ginormous change. And I think certainly in the world today where technology really, let's be honest, whatever we're talking about, marketing, business, technology actually affects everything nowadays.
Yeah, I think... I've loved both of it. As long as I'm learning and it's interesting, because big companies, there's loads of opportunities there. Small companies, you've got more opportunity to make a difference. So there's pros and cons of both. If you're in a small company that's really growing and there's loads of opportunity, obviously that's incredible. But that's quite hard to find.
Yeah. So I want to dig in today about the Simon view on the world of technology, because of course you've been involved with some amazing transformations, some amazing businesses. Technology to me feels like it's changed a lot. Now, I worked at digital transformation agency, so know a little bit. I wasn't, I believe it or not, I wasn't the techie. I definitely don't know enough about technology to have a serious technology conversation, but I do know enough about digital transformation projects, how they come about. We've done, I've been lucky enough to work for, agencies that were leading that for big companies like Vodafone, Channel 4. It's been involved in some quite interesting things over the years. But to my mind, your role and any kind of CIO, CTO's role has changed quite dramatically over the past few years, because although technology has always been important in terms of the back-end infrastructure and IT running of businesses, and of course, essentially at one point, mainly the website, especially if it's an e-commerce business, now it feels like it affects so much more. So I'm guessing you as a CIO, your role has probably changed, become much broader. You're more, I might be getting this totally wrong, by the way.
No, I think you're right. I think there are very few roles in a company that span the entire company. And when you think about the word transformation, and it is an overused term, but even if you want to change what if you want to change the status quo, change what your company is doing, you need to get everyone on that journey. You need to really influence everyone. And there's very few people in the company who can do that. Obviously, top-down CEO could do that. Finance function could do that. The HR function can do that. And technology can do that. But there's very few other functions that wouldn't feel swayed to their own area. They wouldn't sort of over-index, even if it's subconsciously, to their own area. So I like to sort of think that technology has an independent role to play, and therefore, and the very nature of technology, the very nature of delivery of technology is very disruptive. So you have to have got comfortable with completely changing what you're currently doing, what you're going to do, and being open to what's the best approach to do it. And that's essentially what you're asking people to do in a transformation. But a lot of people don't have to do that in their day-to-day role. They just go, I do the same thing every day and I get better and better and better at it. And so when someone comes along and goes, you need to do something differently, it's very uncomfortable. Whereas that is a skill that a lot of people in technology do a lot of. So it does sometimes fall down to the CIO to be able to be disruptive, or at least to lead that thinking, or at least to challenge the executive to think differently.
See, I told you I wasn't going to stick on brief, because that disruptive piece I think is really important. How do you, when you're running a big, and it is, let's be honest, technology is changing all the time. It is disruptive in its own nature. We've all seen, even just in the past few months, years, how much AI and the adoption globally of ChatGPT, even just that one platform, has changed so much. How do you navigate it within a business, getting people on your side? Because it's scary for change. A lot of people don't like. People will be worried, oh my gosh, this new technology is going to replace my job. How do you run a transformation project but keep everyone happy at the same? can you keep everyone happy? How do you get people on board, I guess, is what I'm asking.
It depends on what the role of the transformation program is. I think ultimately everything needs to tie into an overall business objective, an overall goal. Either it's a direction, or it's understanding exactly, this is what's not been going well, so we need to rectify this. So being really, really clear what you're trying to change, and then how you're going to be able to measure whether you have made an improvement, whether you have succeeded. If you don't have those things before you do anything else, then there is a danger that you will completely go down dead ends, and you will do random things just because you can. And that is actually part of the challenge of technology within transformation. You can do almost anything. And so there is a danger that you start to get distracted and you start to go down things. And with AI, that's even worse now, because there's so many different toys that you could play with, so many different things that you can give over to your colleagues to start using and playing with, and that can be exciting and it can be really effective, or it can be very dangerous and distracting. So I think that overall top goal is the most important thing, and then. So that's that top-down sponsorship. That's absolutely critical, so that everyone knows it is the most important thing. There is no, I can't have time for this because I'm doing my BAU job, or I'm doing this. It is the most important thing. And then you just identify what are the different streams. And each stream has to do exactly what I just said, has to have what's the goal of it, who's the sponsor of it, and how will I know whether it's improving or doing what it needs to do. And then my preference is then that stream is fairly independent. They can do whatever they want as long as they reach that outcome. And that gives them the flexibility to become the experts in that area, rather than it all being top down and all micromanaged from the top. And so I think a transformation can be quite varied because it completely depends what's in those streams. It may not have any technology in those streams, may have technology in the streams. So whether that is keeping everyone on side, whether everyone's happy, it all depends on how disruptive those streams are and how much you need to change. Because the change may be, we need to do exactly what we're doing now, but just a bit better.
Yeah.
It's not much of a transformation, but you may be bringing more measurement in, or you may be being much clearer on with the data that you're providing and how you're communicating that to everyone else.
So interesting though, because the world of technology it's disrupted within itself. So I think how we run these projects, it's just from way back when I was first working in digital transformation, it was all these, really, you'll remember this, hopefully, like waterfall, really long projects that were ages to scope out, and we had all the delivery things that we needed to do, and we had to meet them. And, we were in build for some projects for 2 years. I'm not even joking, 2 years for big digital transformation projects. Now, that is not the case. And because technology is moving at such a pace, brands, businesses we can't take that long to go to market, because by the time you've done your build, everyone else has launched 20 other things and they're miles ahead. So in terms of running the projects, is it much more agile, in terms of actually deploying? And I guess, what does that mean for you? We can talk about how you did this, the kind of things that you were doing at Sweaty Betty might be a good, and then we can move on to maybe a bit of River Island shortly. But yeah, how has that meant that you have had to either run projects or deploy technology or think about your strategy for even choosing the right technologies? So
I think technology, you're right. The big technology programs of the past were the big ERP implementations, the big scary, you're changing the nuclear reactor of your company, you're changing and you're moving on to Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, all the big things. And they were difficult because they were just big monoliths that could do pretty much everything, but you needed to do it the way they wanted it to do it. And therefore, there was a huge amount of work to crowbar it into your business. And then you had to force everyone to do it in the way that they needed to be done. That is not the case anymore. There is much more availability now. The infrastructure was a big part of why that was not possible in the past. With cloud infrastructure now, it's much easier. The barriers to entry for different people to provide these types of solutions are much lower. So there's much more availability, and that's brought the cost down and it's brought the quality up. And so when you're looking at a technology solution, you can look at what the right thing to do is. Traditionally, you've always looked at the outside. You've always looked at either the e-com or the very outside bit of technology, because it was the least risky thing. It was relatively cheap and there wasn't much dependent on it. And it also had a customer impact. So if you think about, I don't know, if it was a CEO sponsored project, they want to see change and they want to be able to say, I made a change while I was in charge. They couldn't do that with an ERP program because it was so big and the risk of it was huge. So no one ever sponsored those. It was always about, we're going to change the website, or we're going to change the tills, or we're going to change something, because it's customer. So it's easy to measure. It's exciting. People can relate to it. Whereas now, actually, you can look at a lot deeper at what the business needs. So you can definitely look at the customer engagement proposition and experience, and that's absolutely crucial. But you can look at the operations. You can look at the efficiencies. You can look at stock management from within a retailer. That's a crucial area. Planning. How do you plan for stock? How do you move it around, etc. So I think the big difference for me is really understanding what is going to generate the biggest value for your business, and then making sure that you can deliver something quickly. Because you're right, I would never want to do any delivery that was longer than 6 months without something tangible being delivered within those 6 months. Now, it may be part of a big program of work, but I don't like to I don't like to change the organization and re-architect your team around that program of work. I think that's very disruptive. I think now, because these things are easier to do, my preference is to create long-lived teams looking after value streams of capability. And then they become the experts in that area ongoing. And therefore, if you want to brief a change in, or if you want to deliver a project, you don't have to brief the context in, because they already know it. They're already the experts. They already know the implication. They even probably know what how the customer is going to react. And that makes it much easier. It makes it quicker and it makes it cheaper. And therefore, you can run concurrent programs at the same time. The risk level drops down. And what I like is I don't need to have the idea. I don't have to have all the ideas. The team should have the ideas. They're the experts. And so you're just really there to set up the structure, support them, make sure that they feel like it's a safe space and they can really have a say in what we should be doing and how we should be doing it.
Love that. It's a cool job. It is a very cool job. It's cooler than I feel like it's cooler to be a CIO or a CTO now than it ever was.
It is. It's definitely cooler. I mean, I think there's definitely still, if you say you're working in technology, there is still a bit of people sort of glaze over a little bit.
I don't know if they do. I feel like tech is cool now.
I mean, I think if I said I worked in AI, that would be different. People would be, oh, that's quite exciting, until you spoke about it, and then they might glaze over again. But
or like mind boggle. Yeah. I mean, I am a little bit obsessed with AI in all facets, and I feel very blessed that I get to interview amazing people like yourself about what's going on. It is incredible how technology and AI specifically are changing literally everything. Now on that, you were talking about how you deploy these programs. Mm-hmm. Big question from me: how on earth do you find the right technologies in the first place? Now, I am very lucky. Again, I work with a lot of really cool tech companies. So, I know as much as I need to know to market those tech companies, but it's really hard, right? Because and I see it from both sides. Like, you're in market, or you need to solve a problem, and you probably need a new technology in order to solve that problem. Yet they're all trying to sell stuff to you. Which one do I choose? Where do I even go to evaluate them? Like, what's your approach to actually finding, shortlisting technologies when you've got a problem to fix?
Yeah, so I think, again, if I compare the past with the present, in the past, we used to do these massive requests for proposals.
Oh my God.
These huge RFPs.
I used to fill those in.
Oh my God, and they took so long, and then everyone would fill in their table of, right, this is what my scoring is, and if it wasn't what you thought it was at the beginning, then you manipulated the table until it did give you the right result. I'm not a big fan of RFPs. I don't like them at all. I think they're a waste of time. And I think the outcome is nearly always a foregone conclusion, because to even get into an RFP, especially in those times, you'd have had to have done a certain amount of due diligence to even get to that point. So I think RFPs, I think you want to have experts involved in the process of selecting it, so that you don't have to do this quite mechanical process of trying to choose the right provider or solution. Equally, because, coming back to what I was saying before, because things are on, there's great cloud infrastructure, there's really well understood industry standard integration protocols, it's less scary to plug new things in and unplug them and change them. So I quite like the approach of, it's going to be better. It's going to be good enough. Don't worry too much. We can change it if it's not right. Now, a lot of these things obviously have a multi-year contract, but as long as it's better than what you have now and you think you can evolve with it, I think that's good enough. So the approach I like to have is for any domain. So I split my world into multiple domains to make the decision more specific. So in my world, I have a digital domain, and I split the team up into that space, the architecture up there, so that we are really clear who our sponsors are. We understand what the technology we have related to that sponsorship and what team is looking after it. So we have a digital domain, a retail domain, buy and move, which is all your merchandising, product and supply chain, corporate, and then I have data as well. So each of those domains, they know their world really, really well. They work really, really closely with their stakeholders. So if they want to do something, they understand the context of why it's got to be done, and they understand the implications of changing it. So when it comes to choosing something, they are the best people there. So you don't need to bring in people who don't really understand it to go through all these pitches and everything. I'm much, and equally, I'm much more of a fan of trying it out. So get a proof of concept, start to build it, try and prove it, show it to your stakeholder, and then just get going. So I think it is exciting because you can get moving much quicker.
Yeah.
There's much less of the paper-based discovery process or design work up front, because you should have a long-term design already. You should have a long-term architecture. You already know which systems you should not be building on. They are due to be deprecated, so don't build on them. These are the technology principles that you should be following. So a lot of those decisions you should already have mapped out so that you're very specific about what you're asking people to decide about. And then it's just promoting, be brave, make the decision, move on, and let's get going.
Plug and play.
Yeah.
It's a much nicer world to be in than the days of monoliths still exist, but I think they're realizing that the world is changing and they're trying to change themselves as well.
I think that's right. I think so. The thinking on this goes in waves, right? So monoliths was good because it could cope with the scale. Then monoliths was bad. We need composable architecture that gives us massive flexibility because we can decouple things. We can do a best of breed architecture that you can plug and play. And actually also it gives you flexibility across the team. So you can have multiple streams working. You don't have to deploy it all at once. You can deploy it each component individually. So it de-risks it. So best of breed is amazing. However, best of breed has a cost associated with supporting and building every single application. So you then have to do a trade-off of going, the additional cost of having each of those costs associated with each of those applications to support it and to build it and to maintain it. Is that cost offset by the flexibility and the uniqueness that functionality provides your company? And in the past, the answer has always been yes. It is worth doing because you have the flexibility and it's much better than the monolith. But now with the advent of better SaaS providers, because you've got that economies of scale, you've got much, much better quality capability coming out there. You've got much, much more competition because the competition to even be in business, let alone to provide the software for businesses, is much, much more fierce. So actually everyone has to be much, much better, much more cost conscious. I'm less concerned about having to hedge my bets and having a best of breed world. And increasingly, I think the cost is not worth it. I think you can make commitments that do tie you into an ecosystem but that will give you scale and it will give you speed to market and it will give you everything that traditionally you would have thought the best of breed gave you. What I don't want that to be misconstrued as is I am still a big fan of internal engineering teams. I'm a big fan of internal technical capability. I just don't think that team should be focused on creating foundational industry standard capabilities. I think you should focus on the things that are unique to your business, things like that will generate value, things that like integration, data, AI, innovation, experimentation, because just because you've got something doesn't mean you shouldn't build bespoke over the top of it, but that should just be for experimentation or for something that is unique, maybe a members club or something that you think is really specific to your proposition. But you shouldn't be building the ecom platform. You shouldn't be building the ERP. You shouldn't be building things that are now readily available and can actually plug and play without you having to do the bespoke integration that you had to do before.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is focus on the things that differentiate you slightly as well. I mean, and that's the same for every business, really. Like if there's something that already does it, use it, because it's going to save you a lot of time and money, and it's going to be supported by the platform, and they know that world. They're probably going to keep innovating and getting better. So why would you not use it? And
also, is it good enough? You may well be able to do it better.
Yeah.
But is it worth you prioritizing that over the other things that you could be doing? And that's the important thing. I think it's very easy to get distracted into the things that you want to do because you can do it, or you want to do because they're exciting, rather than doing the things that you should be spending your time on, and you potentially buy the things that you shouldn't be spending your time on.
Yeah. I've made that mistake on a much smaller scale than working for River Island or Sweaty Betty or Sainsbury's, but self-building a membership, which we did because we did want to do stuff that was different, and we looked at all the membership platforms that were out there. And it hasn't been massively detrimental, but if I look back now, we probably could have done most of the things that we wanted in a platform and saved quite a few, tens of thousands of pounds. But say la vie, you live and learn.
The added advantage of that is if you do something that is already pre-canned or something or that is off the shelf, you can work with all the other users of that to go, if it's working even better for them, I can find out why it's working better for them and start to collaborate and get their learning. So you don't have to come up with all of the ideas yourself. You don't have to make all the wrong turns. You don't have to make all the mistakes yourself. So I think there's a huge strength to that, having a community around the tool set and the applications that you're using, and make sure that you can then potentially influence the people who provide that to provide you features that you really want. But building it yourself is a last resort, or it should be very specific of, I think no one else will have this and I don't want anyone else to have it, so I should build it. Unless
you want to be a tech company. I've interviewed the MD of Fabletics, and they think, well, you will have known them very well, I guess, at Sweaty Betty. They think of themselves as a tech company. They do not think of themselves as a activewear or fashion brand. They think of themselves as a tech company, and they have built their own technology and taken which is interesting because, in their own right, they're a very successful business, and, they've taken a very different approach. But it's interesting, isn't it? Like they always work. But I think what you're saying, if you're a brand adopting, then, or if you're an existing brand or a legacy brand and you're looking to do something, unless you're looking to launch and change the game and create your own tech, which is also a thing, the approach I think that you're talking about is 100% the way brands should go. Yeah, but I do think there's no right answer. I mean, there are lots of people who make it work. Holland and Barrett, they build a lot of their own tech, and they build a lot of tech that most people would consider you should just buy this, but they're doing brilliantly, and they offer an amazing proposition for their customers. So I do think, but it needs that support everywhere across the business. Yeah. So if you're going to do that without the right support, you're setting yourselves up for failure. So you just need to understand the context across your business. What do you think what's the appetite of the business? What support do you need? What's that support supposed to give you if you fail, if you succeed, if you need more money, if you, etc. So, because some of these things they're not very clear business cases. Sometimes it's a leap of faith. And so if your business is not willing to do a leap of faith, then it needs a very prescribed business case. Don't do it. No. Because you're just going to have pain and emotion the whole way through. Whereas if there is that leap of faith and we just want to get into that space, then maybe that's a situation where building it would work. Yeah, I think you're right as well, saying it's based on the business. Like, what's the culture of the business? What's the CEO thinking about these things? What's the appetite? What's how many, what size team do you have? How are the stores? Like, it's going to be very different on a case by case basis. Yeah. That being said, I'm going to ask you a more generalist question now because I'm mean. There's a lot of cool things happening. I am obsessed with shopping. I am a self-confessed, I've just made up a new word, self-confessed shopaholic. I am super interested to hear from you as someone who has been at the cutting edge of some really cool, and I would always almost think of Sweaty Betty more as an online brand way back when, rather than an in-store. Although I did used to go mainly to the Carnaby Street store when I used to go and shop in store. Very nice. What do you think is coming when it comes to the future of retail and technology? I know that's a massive question. That is a tough question. So I think, there are lots of people getting into physical retail now, more into physical retail. Even just a couple of years ago, there was this sort of movement to we're going into physical retail, but just from a customer experience perspective, not necessarily for transactions. But that's now swung the other way, and now there are very successful brands going into physical retail and making good money in physical retail, as well as it being a complementary experience and brand proposition as well. So the future of retail is
tough because the competition is global now, irrespective of whether you are just a UK-based brand. There, the likes of Shein, if I take retail specifically, the likes of Shein, the likes of Temu, the likes of all these marketplaces are changing the rules. And as much as we like to say, this generation or that generation will be, it's all about the quality of the garment and where it's come from. Cost is a huge part in the current climate at the moment. And so each of these brands, each of these companies has their own reason for being successful. And so you need to really understand what's the proposition? What's your customer? And why are you going to be successful? Why are people going to come to you? And I think that's what the future of retail is. It's being very, very clear. What are you going to do to attract customers? The world of being able to do a little bit of everything to everyone is tough. There are obviously lots of incredibly successful brands who do it. That needs a very, very successful top-down sponsorship for everything. But I think the future of retail is going to be very specific around, I'm going to be, the world of social and influencers, and it's going to be an e-com focused area, or it's going to be a multi-channel brand, or whatever it is. I think you need to be really clear because customers can see it all now. They can see it all played out on social, and so you can't lie about it. You need to be really upfront. This is my brand. This is what I stand for. And then if they see that reflected in your stores, on your website, I think there's a much better buy-in for customers.
I think it's about experience. Like for me, and I know my 17-year-old daughter will echo this, is, she loves shopping. We're going to look at Manchester Uni, I was saying, just before we started recording. She's like, Mum, can we go to Selfridges? They've got a Selfridges there. Like, obviously she buys into the Selfridges brand. I'm actually hosting an event there tonight, but the London one, not the Manchester one. Like, I think those in-store experiences, how you experience the brand on socials, how you experience, it's all, of course, I know we know this and it seems so simple. It's all so important as a collective. And
I think consistency, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to think about what's my in-store experience like in comparison to my social media experience and the kind of influencers that we're working with, and actually looking at the brand holistically from a technology and a brand point of view, I think is becoming ever more important. Like certain things that I was like, we didn't actually ever air it, but I did an interview, which I've never been allowed to release, with a certain very famous beauty store, that I said to my daughter, why are you so obsessed with this store? Thinking that it was going to be, because they've got really cool things in the store, like they can scan my skin, and I really like the way they display the products in store, whatever, the stores that you have to queue up outside in Westfield, those ones. And she was like, I just like the brands that they have. And I see loads of influencers on TikTok having them. So I think, again, how people find brands, what they buy into, it isn't, and I always think I kind of know about this stuff because, I'm just interviewing people and speaking to people, but consumer demands and how we shop, how we behave is different. Have I just heard, I'm sure this is fresh off the news, but Shopify have done an integration with ChatGPT or OpenAI, and you can now buy in platform, not as in the OpenAI ChatGPT platform.
Yes, so that's I'm not entirely sure whether that's open to the UK yet, but that's definitely coming, and I think that's,
how cool is that?
And that's again keeping up with how your customers are interacting with your brand. I think the example you gave around, I like it because I can find all the brands. That's one reason. She might be attracted to other companies that she likes because they're authentic, so it's understanding what's the thing that's bringing you in. And I think the AI piece is really interesting because people are changing their behaviors. People are changing their homepages of their browsers to ChatGPT. They're changing them to AI agents now, so that and we're seeing up to 50% of searches coming from that, and the amount of bots and the amount of crawling that's coming in, the amount of crawling that's hitting our site now, some of the vast majority of it legitimate, either checking prices or checking products, or even people searching, it hits the site continuously, and you need to take advantage of that. You need to be ready for that. So you need to make sure, people talk about SEO all the time, search engine optimization. We need to make sure that we are ready with the AI optimization as well. So that AEO, or whatever we want to call it, so we make sure that we've got the right tags in the pages so that we can be discovered by these agents, and so that people can find us however they behave and however they operate with their technology.
I've been reading some really interesting stuff on that, and in fact, going to a talk tonight that we're hosting at the event that I'm doing at Selfridges. And it's so interesting how brands now need to show up differently. And also because the LLMs are not just searching your website, they're going to Reddit, to Google reviews are a lot more important. So like how e-commerce brands need to keep up with that. In fact, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot tonight because it's coming fresh from some people that know some pretty cool stuff about it. But it's changing so much. So how we this shift in, like you said, 50% of the traffic potentially coming from AI, like that's such a shift change in a very short period of time. Like I think how we position our content or position our products or whatever it might be to make sure that we're found by the LLMs is huge. Like we've all got to change pretty damn quick.
Yeah, I think, and the tough thing is there's no right answer yet.
We don't know the answer
because it's continually changing, and the models change and the models adapt, and so people are just experimenting, and so this whole test and learn culture is more important than ever now to make sure that you're going, okay, I understand what we're trying to do, and there are several options, and then it's just being willing to try it and making sure that you can actually measure the effectiveness of it.
Yeah. I mean, social media is huge for that, though. I definitely don't think they're not going to stop searching socials. Like that's a big, when I can always see the, when it tell the little round circles come up, like where it's searching. I'm quickly going, what are you looking at? Where did you go to find this information? And look, LLMs also still get stuff wrong a lot of the time, like really basic stuff wrong, but it's only going to get better. So it is very interesting.
And it's also interesting that you've got the likes of Perplexity, for example, that don't allow any sponsored links. So so it is in theory, an independent view, just based on the information that they are finding and interpreting. So it does change the game a little bit. People are so used to clicking on the first page of the Google search results but half the people don't even realize they're all sponsored links. So it could change behavior significantly.
And that will, let's be honest, it's highly likely that's going to happen in, maybe not in Perplexity, but in ChatGPT and the other models, it will be the paid ones come first. Not yet.
Well, yeah. And but it will. Yeah, that'll be sad if that happens, won't it? But
I think it will.
But it's inevitable.
Probably, yeah, I think, look, who knows? I'm making a massive guess there, but I'm thinking it may well do, just because people are greedy and they want the money. Yeah. Okay, so on the theme of AI, coolest, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be something that you're doing, but like coolest thing that you've seen in the world of retail, e-com, when it comes to AI, or anything that's on your radar.
So I won't call out a specific thing. In fact, this is probably more of a shout out to my team. So I think,
love that.
You want to encourage the business as a whole to adopt more AI. I strongly believe it is a real unlock for efficiency, for changing your perception on certain things and finding better ways to do things. Now, in the past, that's been latch on to a single provider who can do a bit of everything. I am very privileged to have a team who are very knowledgeable about AI. They're very engineering focused. So we've built out an orchestration layer across a lot of AI. It's called Delta. So Digital Employee Liaison and Task Assistant.
Love
Delta.
That. Very cool.
Anyway, Delta's the name. And that means we can plug in lots of different tools in there, and we can try things out, see whether it works, understand how much it's costing us, so how much it's being consumed. And it's fascinating. It means that you can use, for example, OpenAI GPT for general knowledge. You can use Gemini, so Google Gemini for more deeply technical analysis. You can use Amazon for code generation. You can use the right tool for the right thing, and then we're even creating our own models for very specific things. And it's just changing the way that the technology team's starting to think about things and how we operate. We generate quite a lot of the code through AI now, and it just opens up so much opportunity. And we're now rolling that out to the business and watching which teams use it the most and what do they use it for. And I think that's going to be fascinating, because we genuinely don't know where it's going to go. We have opinions on where it could be used, but you need to follow where the use is going to be. So I think that's going to be really fascinating to watch where that's going. And I think that's becoming easier and easier to plug it in. And I think going forward, you will get to a point where you go, the foundational capability is this. And then as a user, people will get more and more sophisticated, and they will start plugging their own tools into that piece, because of what I was talking about before, where you have that protocol that you can plug in any tool into the AI agent, and it will automatically integrate into it and make the most out of it. That is fascinating, because technology previously has always had to, let's integrate it, let's test it. You don't have to do that now with AI. You can literally just go, I'm going to plug this tool in, see what it does. If it doesn't work, I'm going to unplug it and plug a different one in. That changes the rules a lot, and it makes it much, much more around, is it working? It's much, much more around the data and the success.
So interesting. I'm actually obsessed with AI. Like, obviously we're a small business, but just for me and my team, like the amount of time it saves us is like just a repetitive task. Like, I don't know, doing research, like when we're doing a big pitch to a client, like us being able, like the amount of time I spend trawling stuff, reading reports to kind of get my head in the game for like, okay, what are we going to do? Now I can just say to ChatGPT, we need to know these things, go and find this out. And it just does it all for me.
I mean, the scary thing is how there's actually very little awareness of how much it can do.
Yeah.
People still think it's a complicated thing to do some of these tasks. I mean, the even scarier thing is now the likes of Zoom and people like that are bringing out technologies where it is very easy to do a very quick recording of your voice.
Yeah.
And then you could participate on a video and it is not you.
Yeah.
It's
Create
someone
a whole
else
podcast.
talking.
Yeah.
No, but it means that you think someone's approving something.
Yeah.
But it's not. And you can see the person, you can speak to them, you can joke with them. And so you go, yeah, I've validated it. I've spoken to them, but it's not them.
That is actually quite scary.
So that's where it does get scary. That's where the guardrails are going to be really scary. And
So the future of AI, scary, exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring it back to River Island though. Have you got anything exciting in the pipeline?
So I think River Island is, we've had a summer of reset, let's say, and we're now in a good place, and the focus is now on how can we really start to grow as a brand and really get back into where our customers just love to shop with us and want to shop with us more and more. And so the focus is definitely on that customer experience first and foremost, and the two biggest channels are obviously the website and the stores. So over the next 12 months, I am hoping to be able to deliver quite a big change across both of those fronts. So from a website perspective, we're working across multiple platforms at the moment. So we're in the very early stages of a program that's going to evolve that and change that.
Exciting.
I know you're desperate for me to say who I'm moving on to.
You don't have to say. That can be, guys, you have to tune back in to find out who at a later stage.
So I think that'll be quite exciting because that's changing our approach a little bit, and we'll see where that goes, and that will be really exciting. And same from a store perspective, our store tills are quite disparate. They're quite disjointed. I mean, and so the customer experience is not great. Some of our tills are 20 years old. Not great. I can't keep up with things. And so I'm hoping over the next 12 months, we have a plan, and it's a really exciting plan. And as with the software, the price is coming down. The flexibility of hardware, the flexibility of software is such that I would love to be able to get to a point where the technology is not the bottleneck.
Yeah.
If you want to decide how a colleague is going to interact with customers around the store, I should be able to provide you with a phone. I should be able to provide you with a till. I should be able to provide you with a self-service app that's in a customer's pocket that all does the same thing on shared capability and functionality. And that, I think, is definitely possible with a lot of the great work that we've done in the past, and with a small amount of work we can surface that up to our customers. So that's really the goal, to get the customers really brought in to buy our great product, and then from then on, then it gets really exciting, because then we can just start to evolve from there.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, because I don't want to queue in stores in big long queues to buy the hundreds of things that I shouldn't be buying, that I am buying. But you see it, actually other countries are a lot better. I think maybe the US, I can't remember where, but a long time ago where they have those self-serve, I don't know what you want to call them, sinks, baskets, where you just magically put stuff in and it tells you all the things.
Have that. We have that at River Island. We have that. We've got the RFID buckets. So, every bit of all of our products are all tagged with RFID. So yes, you can go in, you can go to our self-checkouts, and you can just dump everything in the bucket. It scans everything immediately, and then you can walk out.
Amazing. See, it does make it a lot quicker. But then the other things that I'm guessing maybe on the agenda, like, again, people just being able to come up to you in store, like, do you want to buy the things that you've got in your hand? Yeah, cool, I'll just do it for you here. Off you go.
And all of these things are possible because we have RFID, so we know all the products, we can identify all the products. Everything, there's Wi-Fi everywhere, so we can improve on the Wi-Fi in some of the places, but ultimately there's connectivity wherever you go. And we already have smart fitting rooms in some of our stores where you can go in and immediately the iPad on the side turns on and tells you exactly what you've walked into the fitting room with. So smart. We can do so much more with that. We have data sets which says other people who have walked in with those outfits, they buy this, or by the way, that top is normally a bit small for people, so you probably want the size up. Shall I just ping a shop assistant and they can bring it to you right now? So all of those things are things that we could do now, and some of those things we do now, some of those things are sort of aspirations. So it's the most important thing that we need to get is, do we understand our customer? Do we know who our customer is? And do we know what the most important thing that they want to see is? And then we can start delivering on that.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? Because data tells you something and you think, oh, well, this is what they need to know. But that's not always the case. It's not always what you want, or you don't like. And I actually get frustrated as a shopper, because I expect, like, okay, if they bought this item, I want to see, this is really basic, like a good e-commerce website design. Like, customers that bought this also bought this, or similar products, or if there's a model wearing it on the website, I want to know the exact shit. And a lot of websites still don't do that. Like what jacket? Okay, yeah, I love that skirt. Here we go, good example. What are the boots she's also wearing? And it doesn't tell you. And I'm like, then I've got to trawl the site, trying to find our expectations, I think, because, some other brands are doing things to make our lives easier as shoppers. But then, everyone's me. Other people might want to shop very differently to I do. But I think that's the thing. It's understanding your customer and trying to make their lives easier, better. That's really the key.
I agree. And coming to some of the things we've talked about before, in some cases, we are restricted on that because of the technologies that we have. So moving to a single platform across our e-com site, which is used broadly by lots of other people, we can start to see where it's working well in other brands, other companies, and start to replicate that in our own environment. And there won't be a technology barrier to be able to do that. And that's what I'm really excited about, to sort of put the conversation back onto the customer and go, what do we want to do? Because everything is possible. Within reason, but most things are possible. And so really having an opinion on that, and that opinion being backed up by data, and then experimenting on it, testing it, and then rolling it out. And I think that is the future of an internal engineering team, a future technology team that just become experts at facilitating that, rather than building the big projects of work and spending a lot of time doing the design, doing the development, doing the test. Actually, the benefit is testing, experimenting, rolling it out, and then doing the next thing.
Yeah, seeing what gives those, and it's tiny sometimes, little incremental uplifts, but changing something, trying something else, then you know what works, and you're able to do that, I think, with sometimes more flexible, but larger platforms. They do give you that opportunity.
Yeah, and look, a small increment for us is a big number. So so that makes a big difference. We've got over 200 stores. So, a small increment in each of those stores equals a big number. And if that can be replicated into behavior that they do on the website as well, then that's fantastic. If we can get complementary experiences in both areas, that would be great.
Yeah. Across web and in person, I think that's the key for the, and social, like we said before, but that's the real key to.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be complementary to each other. They should, you shouldn't need to restrict to a specific channel. You should be able to go, if you want to buy it in store, you can buy it in store. If you want to buy it online, you can do that. And if you want to buy it online, return it in store, et cetera, et cetera. And the data that you see in all of those areas, as long as you identify yourself, should be the same, should be similar. The recommendations we give you, et cetera, it should all be similar. You may choose to push different things in store based on the stock that's in store. But if that person wants recommendations, you should provide it to them.
Simon, thank you so much for sharing so much. If you guys want to find out about the platform, I feel like I'm going to be able to we are coming to our event in a couple of weeks, which probably will have happened before this even comes out, but watch this space. I might squeeze out of Simon exactly the platform that they're moving on to, and it'll be new news for all of you. But Simon, thank you for sharing so much. I honestly loved that conversation. We've covered so much, and a big thank you for joining me.
No problem. I enjoyed it. Thanks very much.